One thing that I am definitely not into is snobbery or condescension when it comes to reading. And you may have seen those things online too that make comments about like, oh, people who don't read are, fill in the blank. Or just this idea that like people who read are like doing the morally right thing. I'm not about that at all. I know people who have maybe even undiagnosed dyslexia and comprehension, like actual differences in how they process the written word. It's not like a professor, theologian, the written word. Just words on a page. And that's like an actual brain thing. So if that's you and you're someone who's watching and is like, every time I sit down to read, it's just like, I can't understand what I'm reading, or I have to reread the same thing like a million times and it's just frustrating for you. There is nothing morally right about reading books. If for you reading is really stressful, it literally might be an actual difference in how your brain processes language. So I want to put that right out there at the beginning. This is a no shame for those who are like, I've tried it, I cannot do it. It's just too frustrating. Then no guilt, no shame. But this video is for people who their experience isn't like the one I just described, that their experience is more like, I have all these books on my shelves and I just don't read them. Or, when I have free time, I just want to do something else, but then I'm annoyed that I'm not reading. So this is for people who, and this is the thing, this is not for people who think that you need to or should be reading. I did a video a few weeks ago, I'll link it below, where I talk about your brain reading nonfiction and all the amazing benefits of reading nonfiction or reading fiction. And in that video, I also mentioned like, you don't have to do something because it's good for you. Like you can read because it's just fun, right? So it's a side benefit that, reading fiction or nonfiction seems to have quite the benefit on the old brain function. But honestly, reading is just fun. So if you're someone who's like, reading seems fun and I want to read because I want to have fun, but I just, for some reason, don't end up doing that, and you're looking for ideas, feel free to continue watching. I can't prescribe my exact circumstances to you because all of our life circumstances are different. We all can find free time in different ways. And a lot of this also depends on your mental capacity, what you're having to juggle in life. So if you're also, I wanted to say this, if you are a person who just really is too tired to read, then no shame at all. No shame at all. If you're too busy to read because you're just trying to you have to work 5 jobs to fill up your gas tank, hey, no shame. Being able to read, it feels like it's like a privilege. So again, I don't mean this to be anything that makes anyone feel bad or like you should be reading or you can make time. Oh my goodness. Here's a quote that I find not repulsive. There's got to be a good word for it. Maybe you can come up with one for me if I can't think of it. There's that quote, I can't remember who said it, but it's like, you and Beyonce have the same 24 hours in a day. I'm like, thanks. Does Beyonce have to budget, or is she kind of doing okay in that department? It's just so silly, the shame that gets put on people for not doing more. You're just trying to survive and get by. But if you happen to be someone who's like, I would like to make more time for reading and I'm curious what others are up to, I am going to be sharing how I have personally what is my title? How I've created a sustainable reading habit in my 40s? Is that what I'm calling it? We'll find out. So I am going to talk through just my own personal circumstances, and you will see a lot of this it's like a mixture of what I already enjoy coming together with circumstances in my life that are very unique, but will soon be changing. So stay tuned. Oh no, I'm becoming a YouTuber. Stay tuned for the last point that I make, because it's a juicy one. You don't have to, you can listen if you want. But I just wanted to, wow. Speaking of juicy, launching spit towards the camera. That's what I'll be talking about. It's mostly for the algorithm, so YouTube knows what I'm talking about, so they can give this video to the right people. So that is what I'm going to be talking about. Feel free to stay tuned to the end because it might be interesting for you. So what I mean by what I already love coinciding with very unique circumstances is I already have been a person for a while who will go to the library used book sales. At the thrift stores, I'm always looking for what books are they selling? At a yard sale, I'm looking for the books. I was doing that for a while, but then I was one of those people who was like, why don't I seem to just be we literally had actual piles of books around the house. I'm saying that in past tense. It's funny. There's still piles around the house, but they are smaller piles. Not just because I'm packing them for moving. Anyways, that was a rabbit trail. I would be someone who literally had stacks of books running out of room on the shelves. Not clearly now, because like I said, we're packing to move. But when we weren't packing to move, the shelves were filled and we just started stacking books other places just around the house, as one does. So I would look at those and be like, why am I not reading these? Why am I just during a season in my life where there wasn't as much pressure to hey, you need to go find a full-time job or whatever. Everything was in the, let's call it the before times. In the before times, then I still was just that thing where you're if I just had more time or if I was just less stressed, I'd read more or I'd do the thing that is fun for me more. I just wasn't. I was doing the thing where I'd be ooh, I got another book and I can't wait to read it. And now I have time to read and I want to do something else. So how that ended up switching for me really came down to the job that I ended up getting. I don't think I've ever been super detailed about the work that I've been doing for the last few years, my 9 to 5. It was not 9 to 5. But as I mentioned in, I think, my previous video, that my season at that job is ending. So tomorrow. That's weird to say. It's very surreal. Anyways, but now I feel like I can maybe give you a little bit more information because it'll make sense of this reading habit and why it is very specific to my circumstances. So almost 3 years ago, I started doing childcare for a family, and they had maybe he was 5 at the time, and then an 8-month-old. And during the school year, I would only see the 5-year-old, in the morning before school, and then in the afternoon after school for a little bit. Most of the day was just me and a little 8-month-old, and he would take naps, and the family that I was working for was yeah, if there's nothing else to do, then yeah, if you want to read a book, fine. No problem. I think it also helped that they also love books. So maybe that helped, but yeah, they're just very easygoing about it. I'm yeah, I asked while he naps, can I read a book? And they're yeah. So I was oh my goodness, this was it's I got so much reading done because, most of the time, there were some times where it was they were okay with him sleeping longer because he was younger, or it worked out for their schedule that it was okay when he was younger to sleep longer. So I would bring, let's see, how did it work out? I had a book that I would bring with me in my purse that I could read, when there was downtime during the job, if like, the kid was hanging out with their parents for a little bit or whatever. So then I'd have a book and like, sweet, I got my, book from my purse that I brought with me, and I just bring it home with me at the end of the day. It just kind of lives in the purse, my purse book. So I would have that book that I could read. So then I would have a separate book in the napping room so that when it was nap time, I could have a separate book that I could just leave there all the time on the nightstand next to the rocking chair. And that once, the baby fell asleep, then I could like get the book and just read and read. Like there were some times where he would sleep for like 2 hours and I could just sit and read. It was just so fun. Really great. So that's what I mean when I say I had a unique set of circumstances that kickstarted my reading habit in my 40s. Because my life circumstances were to where like I have a ton of experience in working with kids, and I matched up really well with this family and our values as, just so many things. One of the values being like books are awesome. So that, like I said, that helped. But also, just friendly work environment, things like that. So not everyone gets those circumstances, but it worked out for me. And so then I'd be like, when it was like, ooh, I can have a purse book and I can have a, nap room book that I read during nap time. And so I was just going through books. So I always had like 2 books going at a time. And so I would look at my shelves of these stacks and stacks of books that I was just stockpiling, and could finally be like, you know what? Let's see. Yeah, I've got some things to choose from here. Which one do I want to read next? And then eventually I started making my way through those stacks of books. And then I would be like, well, I need to restock. So I would, go to another book sale, or our local free little library has supplied many, many of the books that I've read. So, like drop off a book, pick up a book. It's been awesome. And that's just like a mile away from my house. So that's another circumstance that has worked out well for me. So all that to say, I think there is something about building habits to where if you do a thing for, is it like 60 days or 90 days? Don't quote me on this. I'm not a doctor or a brain surgeon or anything. That I think there's some sort of something to the fact that like your brain needs a habit to be either 60 days or 90 days for it to be much more cemented in there. Maybe it has to do with like forming brain neurons or synapses. I don't know. You'll have to research it. But like I said, don't quote me on that. But what I found was being in this. Well, and here's the other thing. I already happened to be someone who had the books and also who wanted to read the books. I just wasn't motivated. I just wasn't motivated because I just wanted to like, well, I'm just going to go back on YouTube, or I'm going to scroll through Facebook or Instagram. Oh, yeah, I think I was on, maybe I was on Instagram more. I don't remember. But yeah, so all that to say, my work circumstances lined up and made it possible for me to just be like, well, what else am I going to do? Here's a book. I'm going to read it. And it was amazing. And as the kids grew older, I've now been with them almost 3 years. So now it's, a toddler and 7, 8, maybe he's about to be 8. Anyways, so the kids are older, and, the youngest doesn't really, nap times weren't really working for him anymore. And so we just switched over to rest times. And so then, which is shorter than his nap times would be. But still, like I would bring a book with me to work every day. And then, so let's see, I was going to build something on that. The kids getting older, rest time. Oh, so I wasn't going through books as quickly as the kids were getting older. And also during summer times, sometimes I have alluded to this in the past of like, during the summers, I don't read as much, but it's complicated and I just never shared. So I can just be less vague now, I think. So during the summer times, both kids would be home. And so if one was having a rest time or a nap, I wouldn't just hang out there and read because, the other boy was home. So I would go out and just hang out with him. So that's why I wouldn't get as much reading done in the summer. Yada, yada. There you go. So that is how I built a sustainable reading habit in my 40s. But like I said, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out because, as I mentioned, I chose to end my season in that place of work because of, you can check out other videos if you'd like more details, but we are moving and we still don't know how long we can be in the place we're moving to. So there's a lot up in the air as far as our living situation. So anyways, I'm not going to rehash that, but there's a lot of unknowns. So because of many unknowns and other things, I just decided I was going to have tomorrow. Don't worry, I gave more notice than one day. Tomorrow be my last day. So this should be interesting to see how it plays out with, am I going to keep up this reading habit? Okay, here's the other way it's going to be interesting. Like, we're part of why it's not just the uncertainty of how long we can be in our new place. It's also just the overwhelming nature of packing up a home and moving. I wanted to be fully available, to have a wide open schedule, to be able to pack and just have it not be like, I'm trying to make things as simplified as possible. And so being fully available to be here and to pack or clean or whatever we need to do just seemed like for, I guess, mental health, just wisdom. I don't know. It just seemed like that it would be helpful and more simplified to step away at this time. So it should be interesting to see, while I am packing, helping clear out and, do all these things for our home, for our move, am I going to want to read as much as I have been before? So like there isn't a kid taking a nap where I can be like, sweet, pick up the book, It's more like my schedule is not going to be as regimented on like time, like, oh, by 8:00 I need to do this and by noon I need to do this. So I'm very curious to see if this reading habit will increase. Will I read more? Will I read less when I'm trying to help pack the house to move? And then after that, trying to use my schedule wisely and having a more open schedule and seeing like, how am I going to fill that? Am I going to fill it with more reading, less reading? I don't know. I'm curious to see, but that is how I've built a sustainable reading habit. I don't think the word was sustainable in the title I chose. Anyway, it's fine. You know what I'm talking about. So I am curious, how does this land for you? Are you kind of like, I kind of wish I just had more time, or my circumstances just are not lining up with my wanting to read more? Or are you, I don't know, where are you at in this process? I'm curious. Also, I wanted to talk about, there's such a funny thing. I'm switching over to a different topic. So it's still about reading. I want to tell you some funny thoughts I've had about cozy mysteries. It's so funny to me because if you have watched my previous videos where I talk about cozy mysteries, it's usually like, I had to read it. It had an animal on the cover. It was a cat or it was a dog. And of course I have to read it because it looks cozy and I want to be cozy. And then every time I'm like, why did I do this to myself? The characters are ridiculous and over the top. And either I predicted who done it within the first few pages or chapters, or I found out and I didn't care. Why do I do this to myself? And I think in my last video or 2 videos ago, I blamed it on like the cute animals on the front, but guess what happened? I read one. Oh, no, actually there was a cute picture on the front. Well, let me just tell you what I'm talking about. I recently read Portraits of the Past by Rebecca Kelly. And this I picked up at a book sale. And there is a cute animal on it. It's just in a drawing. Look at that. That is why. There's a dog and there's like a sheep or something, a lamb. Okay, but let me just get into what I wanted to say. The funny thing about cozy mysteries is, even with, is it nearby? I don't feel like reaching over there and getting it. But okay, so in 2 videos ago, I think I talked about a cozy mystery with a cat and like a lighthouse on the cover. Maybe it was 3 or 4 videos ago. Anyways, I talked about how when I was reading that book, I almost didn't finish it because I was just so annoyed with all the things. Oh, and the typos that are in Cozy Mysteries, typos, ridiculous over the top characters, just ridiculousness. Do you know what happened today as I started my reading time at work? I picked up the new book that I'm starting to read, which I'll show you in a little bit. And do you know what my brain did? My brain was like, oh, remember that cat in the lighthouse one? And again, it's like your brain, when it's reading fiction, it processes what you're reading the same way it processes reality. So my brain was like, remember when we were at that lighthouse and like the cat and like the mystery and the books? And I was like, why do I miss you? You were a ridiculous book. Why do I miss you? I was like, what is my brain? That's why I keep going back to these books, because when it's a cozy environment, even though I'm super, super annoyed while I'm reading it, I am simultaneously very much enjoying the cozy aspects of these books. And that's what I realized. It's almost like when you already had like some chocolate chip cookies and you're like, some cake and ice cream would be fine, probably. But as you eat it, you're like, what am I doing to myself? I don't usually do that, but there's times where I have had more desserts. Anyways, that's a whole other video. I'm just trying to make a metaphor of like these cozy mysteries. The same thing happened with this one. I read this one recently. Like I said, Portraits of the Past. And it's the whole description of like your typical cozy mystery. But here's a positive note on this. There is no unaliving in this story. So if you're someone who's like, why is every stinking cozy mystery an unaliving crime? And this one, I don't even think there were any crimes. There were just mysterious circumstances where you're like, what's that person's deal? Why are they acting that way? Like, what is going on here? It's 3 sisters who own a bed and breakfast together. And of course, at the beginning, there's a picture and you're like, that's cozy. And then of course you see this picture and you're like, wow. So my brain, just like when you have a chocolate chip cookie or whatever your favorite treat is like, what do you call it? Is it dopamine? Like you get a dopamine hit of like coziness where I'm like, but it's so peaceful there. And my brain agrees because our brains think that fiction is real. So my brain was like, yeah, this is a nice place. So I started reading this one and the environment just felt so nice to me, and how, there's a picture kind of to go off of, and then my brain filled in the rest and was like, oh, I like it here. And I was reading this cozy mystery with not as ridiculous characters, but still slightly unrealistic, but not as like annoyingly unrealistic as many other cozy mysteries. But I was reading it and like, I think I know what's going on here. And I did for most of the mysterious things. There were some surprises, but for most of them, I was like, yeah, I already knew that. But the characters are like, what? How did we not see that coming? All of us had no idea. And I'm reading like, I knew. But anyways, I figured out what's happening to my brain with cozy mysteries. The comfort that my brain feels in thinking that we're in these cozy places overrides my annoyance, even while reading, of the annoying characters. Not all the characters here. There's like 3 sisters here, and they're like, this is okay, it's not 100% realistic, but it's much more realistic than your typical cozy mystery. But anyway, this one has like 3 sisters running a bed and breakfast, and the characters in their small town, and different people acting strange. And then also you can see there's like, they find these old drawings, and it's like, who made these? Like, is this a relative of ours? We don't know who this is. So to me, that was almost a more intriguing mystery than just like, wow, someone found a body. What happened? Oh my goodness, it was this person. The end, I appreciated that the mystery was not even a crime. It was just like, who made these? And why are the people in our bed and breakfast acting the way that they are? So cozy mysteries, my brain is like bringing me to cozy places, and that's why I keep reading these. It's not just the animals, but the animals initially bring me there, and then when I'm there in my brain is like, remember that place? That was nice. And I'm like, that place was annoying. My brain's like, it was nice. And I'm like, you're right. Let's read another one. and that is why I keep reading these. Okay. The next book that I read was Sipsworth by Simon Van Buie. And this, I did not really know what to expect. I mean, there's a description in here, but you're still kind of like, but what am I getting into? Like, because the cover's a little quirky, right? And you're like, what is this? So this one, I don't want to give any spoilers, but basically this is about a woman in her 80s and a mouse. And the themes, I would say, are community, connection, looking back at your life and seeing what is really important. Connection is huge, to human and human to animal. I don't want to give any spoilers. Okay, wait. So, I thought about this ahead of time. I do want to say one thing about the book, that if you don't want to know literally anything about like how the ending goes, how you will feel at the ending, if you don't want to know that, I decided that like a visual cue, because I don't like put up words in any editing or anything, like it's not going to say spoiler, and then like you could mute it, and then when you see the word spoiler go away, you can unmute. So I'm just going to do this. So while I'm giving a kind of spoiler, you can mute it, and then when you see this go away, then you can unmute it. So that's how I'm going to do it. Okay, here we go. So I spent most of my time reading this book worrying that two sad things were going to happen, and one unpleasant thing was like, not sad, but just like, oh, I don't like that. I spent the whole book bracing for those things, which is unfortunate because here's the spoiler. The two sad things I was prepping myself for did not happen. The author makes you think that one of the things happened. Actually, the author makes you think that both of the sad things that you think are going to happen, he makes you think that they happened, and then they didn't, which was a huge relief. And the third thing I was concerned about that was just kind of like, oh, I hope that doesn't happen, that also didn't happen. So I spent most of a very good book bracing myself for the sad and unpleasant things that literally never ended up happening. You would think, I was going to say, you would think I'd be glad that there was a happy wrap up to the story. And I was like relieved. I was like, oh, wait, it's okay. Everybody's okay. I was glad. But then when I closed the book, I was like, Kendall, you spent that whole book dreading the sad and bad things that never happened. You could have just read it and enjoyed it. But I didn't know that. Like, you don't know what an author's going to do to you while you're reading. They might make sad, bad things happen. Okay, spoiler going away. Okay, so if you're just rejoining and didn't want to hear any spoilers, that was the end of my comments. The non-spoiler version is, if you want a book about connection between humans and animals, and community and meaning and purpose, connection, all that, this I highly recommend. For sure, highly recommend. Now, a book that I am reading that is really short and I think is actually meant for children. Maybe it's like meant for 10-year-olds or something. It's very thin. See, it's like that thin. And I picked this up at a used book sale, and it's called The Girl on the Deer by Eleanor Frances Lattimore. This is exactly how it looks. This is from the 1960s. I think it's 1969. So I have to be honest. I bought this because of the cover. I love this cover. I wish I could frame this cover. I could frame the cover, but I don't want to cut a book like this. Is actually from the 1960s, so I don't want to cut this cover. I want someone else to be able to get this when I'm done with it and be able to enjoy the cover as well. But I love the cover so much. I would love to frame it and hang it up in our new place. That's how much I love this cover. But I really just bought it for the cover. And then when I looked inside for the description, it was like, a girl kind of looks down on other kids and then is kind of isolated. And so strange things start to happen around the house. And she wishes she knew more people so she could talk to them about it. I'm like, okay, you had me on the cover and then you had me at strange things happening. It's exactly what I am interested in. Exactly what I'm interested in. So there you have it. How I've created a sustainable reading habit in my 40s, and also the things I'm reading and my thoughts on them. As always, you can always let me know in the comments what you've been reading and if you've enjoyed what you've been reading. Also, I am selling the Honest Gratitude Journal that I created, and I will have a link to that below. Also, if you are not on a tight budget, feel free to either give a one-time donation through my Buy Me a Coffee site, or you could join a membership. The first one starts at like $2 a month. So feel free to check that out, or just feel free to keep watching or subscribing or, whatever you want to do. So happy reading, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.